Okay, it is 5 o'clock. Jill said she's going to be here in a couple minutes, but we'll do the pledge of the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'd entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of tonight's agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll go into recess then and go down to our daycare center. Oh, okay. She's got some slides, I think. Okay, great. Thanks.
Hello, thanks for inviting us tonight. I'm Chris Chalmers, Director of Community Ed. And before I turn it over to Jenny Hansen, I just want to publicly state what meeting the needs and wants of the community, that's sort of what Community Ed's for. And we're very fortunate to have Jenny Hansen leading this project with the Tiger Cub Child Care Project. And there's a lot going into it. It's a lot more than just ratios of infants to adults. And we're very fortunate that Jenny is such a detailed-oriented person, and she's overseeing vision by visiting other programs in the state. She's seen the details from what kind of food we have in the child care to what kind of carpet we have in the child care and everything in between. And now, I'm not going to steal her thunder. She's got a quick presentation to give you a little overview on it, but just wanted to publicly state how fortunate we are to have Jenny.
Thanks, Chris. So first of all, we chose Tiger Cub Child Care Center as we thought it was appropriate for the Albert Lea Tigers. So we're excited just for the name. And if you take a look at our organizational chart, you may or may not be familiar with the requirements for a child care center, but it does require that we list a license holder, which the school district is named as the official license holder. The controlling individuals are Dr. Funk and Jennifer Walsh. Is that a legal term or you just calling it? So for the purposes of the child care center, helping to make final decisions, the authorized agent is actually the person that the Department of Human Services is in contact with as far as any licensing concerns or telling us like where we're at with our licensing process. And then that will get funneled down to me as we go down the slide for the director to kind of make sure that we're meeting all of the requirements. So Jennifer will receive all of the information directly from Department of Human Services and then trickle that down to me. The Sensitive Background Study Information Person, which is one of the longest titles I think I've ever really seen, will be Kathy Niebuhr, and she will be the person who actually gets approved through a really extensive background check process called Net Study 2.0. It's different than what the school district's background check, for regular employees is. It's much more in depth, more detailed. So she will be the person, we'll be getting information directly from the Department of Human Services about how she can become that person, who then in turn will approve Dr. Funk and Jennifer and myself and then the supervisors and then any other employees that fall under the child care center operation. So it's quite extensive, and those of you in child, I know Dennis has dealt with Net Study 2.0, we've talked about it. I know Kim is familiar with Net Study 2.0. So we had to have that person as well in place for this. And then I'm listed as the Child Care Center Director with the Child Care Center Supervisors, who we have already hired and put in place. They've worked a ton on this project with me. We've spent many hours together going through all the policies and procedures. So what's great about it is they've been excited to learn from the ground up. So I like the fact that they're learning it and taking it in, and they're part of creating it. So I feel like they'll just be ready to go and understand why we do certain things and why did we have this process in place, because we've already discussed and talked about how it's unique for our situation. And then underneath the supervisors, you will see that we will be looking to hire as long as the participation in the center is to as maximum capacity as we can possibly get with ratios and birth dates, because unfortunately not everybody chooses to have a child on the birth date that we hope they do so that it fits directly into our ratios, right? So we are looking then to hire 8 lead childcare teachers, and then 8 aides, and then 2 lead certified floats. And those floats will then provide breaks for everyone, will help with our training, because the other thing that maybe a lot of you don't realize, there is at a minimum close to 40 hours of training that's required every year for the staff, and that's not even to meet what we eventually want to become, which is parent aware rated. So we need to cover those training opportunities directly with the staff that we have in place, so we're not adding extra hours. And then also our plan is to work with adult basic education, and Penny and I have been talking about how we can work together to have some of their coursework and their training requirements done through adult basic education, so they can receive, so adult basic ed can receive credit hours for those students taking those courses. They can do it right in this building. They can come upstairs and take it in their computer lab and do a lot of those trainings in-house right there with another program, so we kind of get, you know, double bang for our buck there. And so it'll be a quiet, you know, separate place for them to do these trainings and have it count towards hours for Penny's program as well. So we think that's a great training plan for us. And then, so the plan kind of moving forward is to conduct a staff survey again. So when this project kind of first started getting going, it started with a staff survey about who was interested if we would offer a child care center to our employees. And so we want to do another survey to kind of gauge the participation mid-year. So it will say something to the effect of, if the center were to open in the month of January 2020, would you still participate, and what age levels would you have participating? Would you have an infant and a preschooler, for example, or one or the other? Because mid-year it's hard for people, because maybe they don't want to change what, you know, where they're at right now. Maybe they are comfortable with their preschooler in whatever situation they're in right now and don't want to pull them out. I would guess that most would choose to jump on an infant or a toddler spot. So that's going to be a family decision for them to make, but we kind of want to gauge what the staff participation would be like. And then that therefore would dictate kind of our staffing process. So how quickly do we bring on additional staff? Because I kind of have felt in this process it's a lot of juggling of horse before the cart or cart before the horse, or, you know, trying to figure out which way do we go with this. So we kind of want to gauge what the participation is and then bring on the staffing appropriately. So we would put out the postings. We do have an anticipated educational assistant posting that goes right along with the requirements of our aides. So that's already sitting out there, and we have a good amount of candidates in that pool already, but we have not done the lead teacher pool yet, because we want to see kind of where we're at for this mid-year participation. And then we would move forward with the interviews, and then again the background check after Kathy is all set to go, and then working out the details about how we do that Net Study 2.0. And then orientation and training. There are some that we have to have in place before staff can even begin. Most of it is just the child development training, which we can do online for usually free or a $5 fee per person. Can bring them on really pretty quickly with that and just have sort of a mass training for all staff on a designated day. We also would want to get first aid and CPR sort of booked, and I already have it potentially booked for the second week of January, and we would do a mass training. Although we wouldn't have to have all of our training done at one time, we do have a 90-day window to get that in after they've been hired, as long as we have somebody on staff who is already trained, and I am trained, and so is one of my supervisors, so we would meet that requirement. So that's kind of a lot of our stuff in a very short amount of time.
Net 2.0, the cost, are you gonna eat the cost of that, or what is 49, is it 49 per?
Yeah, so that's gonna be part of when Kathy gets her packet back from them, to determine, I would assume for sure that the employees themselves would pay the $9 fee for when they go out and get the actual fingerprint and the picture and all that done, which unfortunately, we can't even do that locally. It has to be done in Austin, Owatonna, or Blue Earth are the closest locations to do that. But then there is the cost for the host who sets up the person's name and information. So, we don't even have our packet of net study stuff yet, so, but that would be something that we could put into our training stuff. It would be part of our training cost.
So when Kathy's done with hers, she can't do everybody else's background?
Well, it's not that she does it, but it's a matter of you put the information into a system and it prints out like a sheet, and then the individual employee has to take that over. But when she puts it in, there's a cost for putting the information in, and then there's a cost to the employee who has to go out of town to go get it done.
And Jenny, is it still the case that those background checks are not transferable? So if they've been a provider somewhere else, they're not going to transfer that with them?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Now, when the center is fully occupied, I'll just say that,
Mhm.
filled with kids and fully staffed, with the 16, the 19, I know they're under FTEs, but we'll say 19 employees, will it be at least a revenue neutral, or where would it fall?
Yeah, we're hoping to run it really close to break even at full capacity. Now, just bear in mind that full capacity is tricky with childcare because we have to save spots as kiddos graduate up to the different age groups. So, I mean, the likelihood that you're full completely with 44 kids, only if the birthdays align perfectly. So, but we have some wiggle room there. My only biggest concern would be that preschool age level, like if they decide to keep them put, staying put wherever they're at right now. We do rely on that, the preschool income with the higher ratios to be able to offset some of the other expenses of the younger ages.
And so employees will be hired basically in phases?
Yes.
Jim?
Yeah, to kind of roll them out. So,
Do you see the voluntary pre-K as helping that out? So if there's individuals in the district, child's part of the day,
yes.
there's space
Yep.
here.
Yep, because even currently, the ones that are in our wraparound care would essentially help that as well.
And you may have addressed it, but what opportunities, if any, would there be for high school students to participate?
That's a good question. So, we're looking at, obviously when our hours, we're looking at like a morning shift and an afternoon shift, but I'm also looking at an opportunity that if, for instance, I have no idea if that'll be attractive to enough, employees out there to apply for our positions. We can get a little bit more creative if we possibly bring in the high school students. So we could have somebody that might have a longer, morning to mid-afternoon, and then if a high schooler could come in to fill in that aide position for that, even if they had release time, it'd be great from like 2:30 to 5:30. I think it'd be a great after-school job for somebody because it'd be consistent hours, wouldn't get too late, but yet could get probably, 15 hours a week.
Any other questions? Well, I just want to thank you for all your efforts. I know it's not easy to do a startup like that. And so it takes a lot of work, a lot of research and so on. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And are we ready then for the tour?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
And if you
well-
want to glance at any pictures, I did bring up pictures of the rooms we're going to see, and they have just kind of some drawings of the actual furnishings in there, so you kind of get a better idea rather than just looking at a blank, room or whatever. But and the playground is on there as well.